Welcome to this explainer. Language isn't just about memorizing grammar rules. It literally shapes our identities, how we participate socially, and how we connect with the whole world. So today, we're going on a pretty fascinating journey to figure out exactly how we know what truly works in language education. If you're a postgraduate student, an early career researcher, a language teacher, or just kind of passionate about how we learn, well, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to explore some core concepts from the Applied Linguistics Association of Australia, or ALAA, Workshop 6, which is entirely focused on experimental research. Okay, let's dive into this with a question that is probably on every single language educator's mind right now. Does artificial intelligence actually help people learn a language effectively? I mean, it's everywhere, right? But because language is so deeply tied to human identity and real connection, we honestly can't just assume a flashy new tool works. Getting this right is absolutely crucial. During the workshop, Professor Ayak Pakati used this brilliant analogy to explain why we need solid, systematic data. He said, well, imagine a vaccine. Before we can just give it to people, researchers need absolute proof that it actually works and that it's safe, right? They can't just guess. Language interventions are exactly the same. Whether it's an AI tool or some new way of teaching grammar, we need robust, systematic, experimental evidence to prove that it's genuinely effective and doesn't have unintended negative side effects on learning. Section 1. Inside ALAA Workshop 6, the training ground. This workshop is basically a vibrant, collaborative gathering place where researchers and practitioners actually come together to master the main theme of experimental research, which is understanding cause and effect. By learning how to carefully control an environment, just like scientists do in a biology or chemistry lab, applied linguists can test really specific hypotheses. They want to see if X truly causes Y. And by mastering these experimental methods, the entire field of applied linguistics can advance, which lets us implement the absolute best practices in classrooms globally. Section 2. Decoding experimental design, navigating variables. To really understand cause and effect, we have to isolate exactly what is causing the changes in language learning. So the crucial point is understanding these two foundational terms. First, the independent variable. This is your cause, or your treatment. It's basically what the researcher manipulates, like introducing that AI tutoring software we just talked about. Then, the dependent variable is the resulting outcome you're measuring, like the student's final language test scores. You're testing if the independent variable directly changes the dependent variable. But the real world is messy. This is exactly where things get tricky and where researchers have to be incredibly careful. Enter the confounding variable. This is an outside interfering factor that influences both your independent and dependent variables. If you don't control for it, it can create this totally misleading, spurious relationship, making you think your treatment worked when actually it was something else entirely. And this brilliantly illustrates that point. Professor Fakiti gave a fantastic example in the workshop. Imagine you find that learners with higher motivation scores also have higher English proficiency scores. You might just conclude, motivation causes higher proficiency. But wait, what about socioeconomic background? A really resource-rich environment might give a student access to private tutors and extra classes. That money and access increases both their motivation and their proficiency. So is it really the motivation driving the proficiency, or is it the background? If we don't control for it, our conclusions are completely skewed. Now, let's contrast that with a mediator. A mediator isn't an outside interference, it's an internal mechanism. It's the actual crucial link through which your cause affects your outcome. For example, if a teacher gives corrective feedback on a grammar mistake, that's the independent variable. But the student's grammar only improves if they actually notice the gap between their mistake and the correction. Noticing is the mediator. It's the vital stepping stone in that causal pathway. Just to summarize these two real quick, because they do often confuse new researchers. A confounding variable is external interference that you absolutely must control or eliminate so it doesn't ruin your results. A mediator, on the other hand, is an internal mechanism that you actually want to identify because it explains how your treatment works. Distinguishing between these two is vital for accurate causal inference in applied linguistics. Section 3. The online research frontier, opportunities and perils. So, once you've designed your experiment, you actually have to go collect the data, right? And lately, there's been a massive shift in how we do that. We're moving from physical labs straight to the online frontier.
Drawing on an incredibly insightful introductory article by John Rogers and Bronson Hui from the Research Methods and Applied Linguistics journal, we see that web-based methods offer massive opportunities. You can suddenly access much larger, far more linguistically diverse participant pools than you ever could just recruiting on a local university campus. This is a game changer because it helps solve the long-standing problem of small sample sizes in second language research.
However, with these advantages come very specific risks that can completely threaten our data quality. Online participants are in unsupervised environments, meaning they might be distracted or multitasking. They're also using their own devices, which leads to massive technological variability in screen size and audio quality. We also face the superworker problem. These are highly experienced paid participants on crowdsourcing platforms who take tons of surveys and honestly are no longer naive to experimental tricks. Plus, we have what they call shifting demographic sands, where the available participant pool online can drastically change from day to day.
Section 4. Safeguarding Data Quality, Best Practices.
So how do we actually protect our research integrity in these unsupervised environments? A major takeaway from Rogers and Hui is that currently the field relies far too heavily on reactive back-end safeguards. That basically means waiting until the data is already collected and then trying to clean up the mess by deleting bad responses. What we actually need is a shift toward proactive safeguards. We need to build protections directly into the front-end design of the experiment, way before the data is even generated. Let's move to and see how this builds a stronger foundation. Rogers and Hui outline 4 essential recommendations for rigorous online methodology. First, brainstorm threats specific to your technology and recruitment before you even start. Second, pilot. Test the tech yourself and test it live with a small group. Third, pre-register your designs and analysis plans so your data screening decisions are completely transparent and principled, not just made up on the fly. And finally, triangulate multiple sources of evidence. Don't just rely on one simple attention check. Use multiple indicators to ensure your participant is truly engaged. Section 5. Advancing Applied Linguistics Together. Mastering these experimental methods really is the only way we can gather the robust evidence needed to know if tools like AI are truly transforming education for the better. Because language fundamentally shapes who our students become, their identities, and their social participation, we owe it to them to base our methods on solid science, not just assumptions. Navigating all of this, from tricky confounding variables to the pitfalls of online data collection, can definitely feel overwhelming at first. But you aren't doing it alone. Whether you're designing your very first online study or applying these insights directly in your classroom, your work genuinely matters. So how will you contribute to the future of language education? I hope this explainer has inspired you to join this vibrant ALA academic community and leave your own mark on the field. Thanks so much for learning with us today.